Seguimos en Barcelona con la cobertura del Mobile World Congress y esta vez nos acompaña Ali Sadri, que es el presidente y chairman de el WIGIG Alliance, que es una asociación que ahora mismo nos va a contar en este segundo día de congreso qué es lo que hacen ellos y cómo contribuyen al desarrollo del sector. Como en casi todas las entrevistas que tenemos en este congreso, esta versión toca hacerla en inglés, así que voy a cambiar para saludar a Adri en inglés. Welcome to Telesemana.
Thank you very much.
So I was telling our audience that you are from the WIGIG Alliance, and I told them that you will give us an update, not an update, but to tell us who you are and what is your involvement, given the fact that we have the Wi-Fi Alliance, the Femto Forum. So who are you?
Sure. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Maybe we have to start back in 2008 when we actually formed the organization. We were looking
you got a bit late then.
What's that?
If you were formed in 2008 and we're inviting you in 2012, we're a bit late.
So back in 2008, actually, we started looking at potentially what's the next wireless technology that can provide very high throughput connectivity for the devices. We had the envision that pretty soon all devices are going to get very small. The form factors are going to get very small. The battery consumption becomes very important as well. And we see that it's happening right now. The mobile devices, practically there's no connectors to these devices. The iPad, iPods, the new laptops, the very thin form factors. We're practically getting rid of all the connectors that used to be in these devices. Now, we have to somehow transfer the content that we have in these devices to another device, to a display, to a television, to an external hard drive. We looked at potentially multiple wireless technologies, existing ones, Wi-Fi you mentioned, for example. Zigbee, for example. And we realized that the throughputs that we're dealing with are by far more than anything that we have. We were looking at throughputs of 3, 4, 5, 6 gigabits per second.
So Bluetooth wouldn't do it?
Bluetooth,
all technology.
That's right. So in order to do that, then we looked at the frequency availability worldwide, and we realized in 60 gigahertz there's a good chunk of frequency that is open worldwide.
Okay. It's unlicensed.
Unlicensed, between 57 to 64 gigahertz. In some areas, you have 7 gigahertz of bandwidth available. In other regions, you have 9 gigahertz available. Okay. So we decided that that's a good place to start developing this new standard. And as you know, there's a trade-off between the bandwidth and the throughput. So because we had huge bandwidth, we used bigger chunk of frequencies in order to develop this new standard WIGIG MAC-M4v.
In short range, I guess.
No? Well, relatively in short range. Okay. So one of the challenges in 60 gigahertz is as you go up in the frequency, the path loss gets bigger, much more exponentially gets worse. So we had to come with a new technology, which we call it beamforming, that we form the beam in the direction that we want to actually transmit the signal, rather than transmitting omnidirection. In order to do that, then before we transmit every packet, we go through this acquisition of direction of arrival and the departure. Or once we find out the best direction, then we transmit in that direction. Okay. We started our specification development in late 2008. In 2009, we formed the organization under WIGIG Alliance. It's a non-profit organization, and we had initially 12 member companies, 12 board members. Now we have grown to 50 member companies, and we have 18 board members. And by expanding the organization, we also expanded the depth of the organization as well. We start developing other application layers beside MAC-M4v. So we looked at applications, for example, such as wireless HDMI, wireless DisplayPort, wireless USB, wireless PCI Express, and wireless SDIO. So all these layers of applications, we developed specifications for it as well. Okay. And we announced the majority of those specs last year. We held our first Plug Fest that we tested, manufacturers' chips against each other in October of last year.
Results were successful?
Results were fantastic. Okay. I mean, I actually participated in the Plug Fest, and I saw the interactions between the chipsets, and it was very interesting. We have a schedule of another, I think, 2 PlugFests this year, followed by certification.
Okay.
We're also working with Wi-Fi Alliance to see if we can have a joint certification program with them as well. You mentioned about the short range capability. It is definitely within a room usage environment. So, but we're talking about maybe 10 meters range, which is pretty lengthy in terms of the usability. But at those ranges, we can actually transit up to about 7 gigabits per second.
It's quite a bit.
Okay, so uncompressed video transmission is very useful. But we think that the first usability of this application is for wireless docking. As I mentioned, the form factors are getting small. There's no connectors in the laptops and the tablets and so forth. So somehow you need to connect your device with the legacy displays, external hard drive and so forth. So it would be the best that you have these wireless docking stations that are based on the WIGIG technology, that you can connect these legacy devices into it and still be able to connect your thin device into the devices as well.
So tell us, because we're seeing, obviously you're saying this goes to small environments actually, and we're seeing operators actually at this Mobile World Congress, we're seeing infrastructure is shrinking, and we're seeing that operators want to reduce cell sites, and they want to, keep doing this kind of micro architecture that probably the tendency was released last year when Alcatel-Lucent announced the light radio infrastructure. How does your infrastructure would fit, if in any way, in helping offloading when operators are also looking into femtocells and into all these things? No? So how? Because we're seeing an environment where you're going to have too many devices.
Sure. I mean, it's great that you mentioned femtocell. I even go further. I said nanocells. Okay. And the nanocells could be your home environment, could be a supermarket, could be a gas station, a grocery store, whatever that is. It is very important. I think pretty soon we're going to realize all these mobile devices that want to connect to the what's so-called cloud are going to have issues because of the backhaul.
Yep.
Because how am I going to deliver the content into my mobile device? How am I going to transfer the content from my mobile device to the cloud and back maybe to my house? And I think this is going to become a very serious issue soon.
Yeah.
So one of the things that potentially WIGIG can help are you could have these nanocells, or what we call it media hotspots, where you can get close to these media hotspots and dump the entire content of your mobile device in a matter of seconds rather than hours.
Yeah.
And then you let that device gradually send it to the cloud whenever it can. So that's the very short usage. Exactly. But at the same time, as you mentioned, the base stations, the distance between base stations are getting smaller too. There aren't fiber connections to every base stations either. So the other thing we could potentially look at is the backhauls to be in millimeter wave or 60 gigahertz. If in line of sight, for example, we can easily transmit up to 1 gigabit per second to about maybe 200-300 meters.
Okay.
And these cell sites are getting much closer to each other as well. So you could have an aggregation point in which we combine maybe multiple of these access points into an aggregator, and then you connect to the fiber.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. We're going to check out your website and see. I think you have some announcement. I think you were mentioning.
Yes, a couple of good announcements. Huawei just joined our organization. Is well-known networking and wireless company. ZTE also joined.
Very well known in Latin America, both. So
that's right. So it's very very exciting to work with the expert in this area, and I think the next generation of the WIGIG applications most likely are going to be the either backhaul or the offloading of the cellular network as well.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Good luck with the show.
Pleasure. Thank you.